Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. We are continuing the story Morrigan. They took the train to Cambridge, then walked the 2 blocks from the station to the house where Tam lived with his stepdad. It looked like every other 2-story house on the road. Close beside its neighbour, a painted beige with a screened-in porch. Tam led Boggs around the back, where he lifted a key from a fake rock, and he went inside. Boggs pulled Tam back and stepped out in front of him with his hand up in warning. Tam was pretty sure nobody was in the house, but he stayed put, did as he was told, in the kitchen, grabbing a drink from the fridge, waiting until Boggs came back. She's right. I smell troll. I don't smell anything. Tam headed to the stairs, a bit too enthusiastically. Once he reached the top step, he decided he wasn't going to do that again because it made his ankle flare. Hey, Tam, Boggs yelled up. Yeah? You don't have a favourite stuffed teddy, do you? Tam made a face. No. Please don't tell me that's what your shillalach was. I won't be admitting to that, no. Tam pulled the tin box from under his bed and retrieved the desert eagle his stepdad bought him for Christmas when he turned 18. He kept it well cleaned and unloaded. He set it out on the bed. He pulled the ammo out of his nightstand drawer and slipped it a full magazine inside. He had 2 more ready to go and slipped those into his pockets. But as he reached for the pocket watch on the nightstand that his real dad had left him, he froze. Panic set in. He was locked in place, staring straight ahead at the watch, focused on the vine-like etchings over the surface. His fingers inches from it, but he couldn't move forward or backward. This wasn't the same as having the talk placed on him. He was sure this was something completely different. Leprechauns, came a deep, gravelly voice from behind him, cannot move when focused with the gaze of intent, Tamlin. Magnus put his hand on Tam's shoulder. No more playing around. This time I'll take you to Morrigan myself. Tam couldn't believe this was happening. I'm being held in place because he's looking at me? How in the hell is that possible? The troll's beefy paw brought the talk around so Tam could see it. I want you to look at this long and hard leprechaun. This is going to be the last independent sight you'll see, because once I give you to her, she'll place her own talk around you, and you'll think, say, see, and do anything that she tells you, including giving her your shillalach. Tam swallowed. It was about all he could do as Magnus brought the semicircular shaped hand closer and closer. Hey, dipshit. Owen, run! Run, get out of here! Tam had been straining his muscles so hard to move that once the hold on him was severed, he pitched forward, slammed into the nightstand, rolled into the carpet. The watch slipped off with the motion, struck him in the back of the head. Tam grabbed it and put it in his pocket. You little witch. Magnus's attention was focused solely on Owen. Tam reversed directions and rolled under the bed as he watched the troll's boots stomp out of the room. Owen had broken his gaze, and Tam was leading Magnus away. He didn't plan on losing the advantage. Not this time. After rolling back out from under the bed, he grabbed the remaining magazines, stuffed them into his pockets, and then he ran. He ran down the steps as he heard shouts and felt the house vibrate. The air became thick with a smell of burnt hair and smoke as he quickly but carefully descended the stairs. He spotted his uncle hiding behind his stepdad's bookcase in the living room and frowned at him. Boggs pointed to the kitchen and then put his finger to his lips. "So Magnus is through there. Where is Owen?" In answer, he heard a yell and then another slam. He recognised the swamp of her arrows and then a thud. Descending the rest of the steps, Tam put his back against the wall next to the doorframe leading from the living room stairs. This was leading into the kitchen. He peered around the frame to see Magnus holding Owen by a neck. Her boots kicked underneath her as he raised her toward the ceiling. Blood dripped onto the linoleum. Owen's blood. "Now we will see just how long a Clurachan witch can last without air," Magnus said, as he snarled up at her. Tam fought the urge to run out and just start firing. His stepfather had taught him better than that. Bullets were a commodity, and not something to be squandered in a fight. Every strike, whether using a knife, a gun, or even an arrow, should be directed towards a purpose. He didn't know a lot about trolls, other than they were big and strong. He didn't know if they carried the same allergy to iron as he did himself. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Other denizens of fairy. He didn't know their weakness or their race. So it was time to go for the obvious. What was the best thing to shoot at when the opportunity presented itself? What was the one thing all defence teachers told possible victims to go for? The softest, most vulnerable advantage an attacker had: their eyes. Without his eyes, that bastard can't lock me in place like that again. Tam grinned. He levelled his gun and aimed at the face and remembered to breathe as he fired 3 shots. At least one of the bullets hit true and blood splattered Owen on the floor. Magnus dropped her. The troll roared out, spun around as he slapped his hands to his face and blundered into the kitchen table, which promptly collapsed under his weight. "Tam, look out!" Tam started to dive for Owen, just as something grabbed his left leg. Burning pain preceded being yanked from the doorway, where he slammed into the hardwood floor. Or rather, his head did. He lost his grip on the gun as his vision blurred. He thought for a second what he was seeing just wasn't real. A huge grey wolf loomed over him, its barred fangs dripping with blood. Tam's blood. He realised the thing had bitten his calf and had used it as leverage to bring him down. The wolf growled just before it opened its jaws wide. Tam knew the beast planned on taking out his jugular. A shot made Tam jump. One of the wolf's eyes exploded. Tam felt something warm, something sticky, spray his face. The wolf cried out as it swung its head back and forth and backed away. Tam turned over to see Boggs in the centre of the living room with one of his stepfather's shotguns in his hands. A smoke slipped from the barrel. "Thanks," Tam said. "Oh, I think you could grow like this, definitely." Boggs held up his hand to show Tam the burn marks on his palms, "though I'd like mine in plastic." Tam ducked. Tam was already on the floor, so he brought his head down and covered the back of it with his hands. He felt the air over him move as another shot rang out, and a second wolf collapsed in the hallway. He lifted his head to look. "It's time to get out of here." He pushed himself up and would have collapsed back down when his leg gave. Boggs was there, though, helping him up. Tam looked down to see. Oh, wow. Aye, fairy wolves. You just have to catch 'em before they... Look out! Owen's voice shattered the brief respite. Another wolf bounded out of the hole towards Tam and Boggs. It was moving too fast for Boggs to reload and take aim. Tam couldn't get to his gun quick enough until an arrow fired into the thing's head, and it went tumbling over them, knocking Boggs out of the way. Tam pushed himself to the side, favouring his bleeding leg, and grabbed his gun. When he turned to look back at the kitchen door, Owen stood there, her bow in her hand, breathing heavy and bleeding from a wound on her arm. But she was alive. "Thanks," he said. "No problem. Can we go now, before the troll wakes up?" At first, he wasn't sure why she stopped mid-sentence. Tam frowned at her as her eyes widened, and she looked down. His gaze trailed down her front and locked on the cylindrical pipe protruding from her stomach. He didn't want to believe what he was seeing until Magnus's shadow solidified behind her. His left eye was little more than a ruined hole where Tam's bullet had made connection, but the right eye was still very much whole. The troll wrenched the pipe out, causing Owen to collapse in a heap in the doorway. "Let's see how well you escape me again, leprechaun, with your protector dead." Dead? Tam held the gun in his trembling hand as he used the right one to pull himself closer to Owen's unmoving body. "No," he said, as he reached out for her iron. Deadly to the ceiling, Magnus stepped over Owen and reached down for Tam. "Now it's time to go, Prince. Your master is waiting." Tam couldn't take his eyes off of Owen. He willed her to get up. He silently screamed for her to rise and stab him with the knives. He'd only really known her for a few hours, but he'd watched her for nearly a year. As she danced and smiled and had good times with her friends. All the while, he'd never known she was there for him, just for me, to protect me. And what am I? I'm nothing. I'm some fairy freak who can't do magic. His terror at the thought of losing Owen twisted into boiling rage, and inside his gut, it boiled and boiled. It spun into a ball of burning energy that ping-ponged around his body, igniting his limbs to move, urging his leg to heal, and finally resting inside his mind. If it told him to grasp the thing he wanted, so he did. To take control of what was hidden, to take back what was stolen. That's what it did, the rage inside him. That rage, that anger, that feeling of helplessness coalesced into single point, a pulsing, spinning spur of power that moved faster and faster and faster and faster. Magnus touched his arm, then it released. At first, Tam wasn't sure what happened. He was on the floor, his cough a bloody-chewed mess, and then he was looking directly at Magnus, standing up, brandishing a huge wooden stick in his left hand. The gun was gone. The stick glowed. It glowed a bright blue and white light from it. Vines grew from the wood and shot out like darts, straight into Magnus's skin. The troll raged and flailed. He took out the wall beside him and backed into the kitchen, but Tam followed him, careful of Owen at his feet, his attention fixated on the troll. And that's that part finished, guys. I guess there's another fight on our hands here. Thank you so much for listening, and many blessings.